So here is a tutorial on how to make some mini oven mitts. This pattern is really great for any level of sewing, so if you're new, I feel like it still is a really beginner-friendly sewing pattern that you could do. I included printouts that you guys can cut out everything so you don't have to like measure and eyeball. Then I have the instructions on how to do everything and pictures included so that you guys can follow along easily. So you're going to be cutting out all of your pieces. There is a piece 1, 2, and 3 that you'll be cutting out along with your binding and your hanging loops. And on the instructions, it will tell you how many to cut out of each one. So you are going to first layer all of your mitts and then slowly pin them all down together. And the only piece that gets an extra insulating batter is piece 1. So you'll layer them all together, they'll look like this, and then you'll pin it all the way around. So this is what they should look like when you pin them all down together with all their different layers, and then you can lay them out. So now I'm just going to make marks about 45-degree angle. You can really make them any angle you want. And I'm going to turn this over to the white so you'll kind of see where my lines are. So now you can see my lines on this side a little bit better. And you're going to sew down each of the lines this way, and then you'll create 45-degree angle lines the other way, and then you'll sew them down the same way that you did with the first way. So this gives it kind of like that nice quilted look and makes it look kind of fancy. But if you don't want to do the quilted look, you don't have to. You could just sew all the way around the edge just to hold it down and just do more of a flat look instead of the quilted look. So you're just going to repeat this process on all of your pieces for your oven mitts. So after you're done with doing all pieces, you're going to sew around each one at the very edge. And I sewed 1/8 of an inch at the seam where the edges are all the way around each of my oven mitt pieces. This just helps hold the bulkiness down and makes it a little easier when you sew the edges all together. So on your piece 2 and 3, you're going to draw a line 3 inches up, and you can mark it with a fabric pen or a tailor's chalk if you have that too. I like using the fabric markers, and they have ones that dissolve in the air and then also ones dissolve when you wash them. So you're going to grab your piece 1 and piece 2, and you'll lay piece 2 on top and just make sure it's all lined up, and then you pin it down. And then you're going to sew from the one marked edge all the way to the other marked edge and stop. Then you're going to take it off of your sewing machine and you're going to pin down the sides to get those sides out of the way. And then you're going to repeat the process with your piece number 3 on the other side. So you'll lay it down and then pin it down and sew all the way to edge. So then you're going to place pins in the corner and line the pieces up as straight as you can. And you're going to sew from the pin to that mark that you made on your sewing machine. And I'm sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the edge. And you're going to do that for all 4 corners on each side. So that makes 4 corners. And if you want to, you can stitch back and forth just a little bit because this area will get a lot of usage and wear and tear. So kind of give it an extra stability and some more strength in that area. And then we just need to sew down the sides of each one and put our hanging loop on. So now we're going to prepare our binding. You're just going to fold it in half and iron it down for both of your binding pieces. Then you're going to unfold it and you will sew down the raw edges together. I used a 1/4 seam allowance to sew that edge. Then you're going to take it back to your iron board and iron down the edge pieces that you just sewed. This will help to just make it flat, and then you can turn it to the right side out and then iron it down nice and smooth again. And you will just repeat all of these steps for your second piece of binding, and then you can set them aside. So for your hanging loops, you're going to just fold it into like a sandwich again, and then you're going to undo it and fold each edge into the center. And then you'll iron it down and then fold it together and iron it down again. So this creates a little sandwich, and then you put it all together and you will sew down the edges. And then you're just going to repeat this with your other hanging loop too, and then you should have all your pieces done and just set them aside. So you can put the hanging loop on the inside or the outside. It is definitely up to you what you'd like to do. So depending on where you want it, just pin it down and hold it in place, and then sew over the loop piece a couple times just to make sure it's really secure, because this probably will get a lot of wear and tear too. Then you're going to do a zigzag stitch at the end all the way around your oven mitt to hold those pieces together. Then you're going to add your binding. You will put the raw edge against the raw edge of your mitten and then pin it down and sew all the way around. I used a 1/4 seam allowance for sewing it to the edge. Then you're going to kind of sandwich it together, so you'll fold in your fabric to the raw edges of where you just sewed, and then you'll flip it over onto it to cover the edges that you just sewed on the other side. And then you will pin it all down and sew all the way around. And just remember to take out your clips as you're sewing so you don't run them over with your sewing foot. Then you'll just turn the mitten inside out, and then you'll repeat this whole thing with the other mitt, and you'll have 2 oven mitts that you can use. I have this pattern listed on my Etsy if you want to go grab it and go make you some beautiful oven mitts for your kitchen. Definitely save this video so you can have a step-by-step tutorial when you are sewing along.